Alright, what's up YouTube? Listen, I call this video the Middleweight Slaughter because we gotta pick this division apart today because this division is a mess right now. You got one guy that, he has two titles and, Gennady Golovkin, he has the IBF title. He is the real WBA champion. And then you got all these guys that's holding titles that are doing everything possible to avoid fighting him. Alright? They're either overpricing themselves, they are asking for ridiculous catch weights, or they're just straight up saying they're too scared to fight him. So, what's going on? It's ridiculous what the middleweight division has become a mockery. It's become a joke. I don't know why people are blaming Golovkin for anything at this point. I mean, I do have my one gripe with Golovkin, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But first, it's so many things I want to speak on in this division, and I'm going to break it down. First of all, let's start off by saying, to all the people that feels that Gennady Golovkin needed to fight Peter Quillin in order for his resume to have some kind of credibility, how do you feel about that now? Now that he got knocked out in one round by Danny Jacobs, something that no one really saw coming, okay? How do you feel about that now, okay? Because out of everyone at 160, Golovkin did fight a few top guys. He fought Rubio, who was like the mandatory for the WBC. He fought Lemieux, who was the IBF champion, okay? He fought Daniel Gill, a guy that's had other title fights, who was always considered to be a top 10 middleweight. And then most of the other guys refused to fight Golovkin. All of them that are good too, that he just didn't fight him. We know Peter Quillin didn't want to fight him. We knew Chavez Jr. didn't want to fight him. We know Cotto didn't want to fight him. We knew Sergio Martinez didn't want to fight him. Okay, we got all these guys. And now Canelo, he didn't want to fight him neither. Daniel Jacobs don't want to fight him. Saunders don't want to fight him. I can go on and on and on, all the fighters that don't want to fight Gennady Golovkin. But, to make it fair, you have to fight these guys in order to be considered great or the man or the best in the division. You got to clear out the division. You got to beat these guys. Even though they're afraid of you, you still got to fight them. So I do agree with that. But Peter Quillin, let's revisit Peter Quillin now. Because I remember I made a video called The Fall of Peter Quillin. I made this about a year ago. This is after he was stripped of his WBO title. This is after he turned down Rock Nation for that 1.5 million or 2 million or whatever it was. Alright, he got stripped of his title. He turned down a fight with Matt Korobov. And we know why he turned down that fight and vacated his own title. He turned it down because Al Heyman did not want that fight to go down with Rock Nation. He didn't want to do any business and wants no part of Rock Nation because they have their personal beef with Jay-Z and Beyonce or whatever. So Peter Quillin did not take the fight with Matt Korobov, but let's see how he basically got hooked up later on. He gets hooked up by getting another title shot by fighting Andy Lee, the guy that beat Matt Korobov to win the vacant WBO title. Peter Quillin comes in overweight, so he doesn't get a title shot anymore, all right? Not only that, but he doesn't even win the fight, all right? They scored it a draw. He got dropped in the fight. Peter Quillin rallied late and almost came back to win, but it was a draw, all right? And then he goes to fight Danny Jacobs. I know he had a fight in between. I know he had a knockout, but I'm talking about the notable fights here. He fights Danny Jacobs. Now, can we all agree that Andy Lee was the best fighter that Peter Quillin fought? I mean, when I look at Peter Quillin's resume, he fought a washed-up Winky Wright. He fought Fernando Guerrero. He fought Hassan Ndam. Okay? He fought Gabe Rosado. Okay? A lot of people felt like Gennady Golovkin needed to fight this man, and Gennady Golovkin wanted to fight him. But Peter Quillin felt that the fight really wasn't worth the reward. I mean, he said it on camera. You know, he's all about the money, but he turns down 1.5 million, even though he's never got paid nowhere near that much. So he gets knocked out by Danny Jacobs in 1 round. Now he doesn't have a title. Now he has lost stock because he got a draw recently. He got knocked out recently. He doesn't hold a title. Does he still need to fight a Peter Quillin to have credibility? Because the people that like to criticize Golovkin's resume like to say that he didn't fight Peter Quillin. I mean, that's the guy that they felt, Peter Quillin was the guy that they felt he needed to fight. So, how do you feel about it now? And I wonder how Peter Quillin feels now that he ducked Golovkin, but ends up getting knocked out in 1 round. I don't even think Golovkin would have knocked Peter Quillin out that fast. So, now that we look back at it and all the Golovkin critics, how do you feel about that now? You know? How do you feel about Kid Chocolate being the second best guy? I mean, I would admit that I would probably say arguably Kid Chocolate was maybe the best other middleweight there was because he was undefeated. But his resume isn't really that good neither. It never really was that sharp. The best fighters he fought was just in 2015. So let's move on from that because I don't want to focus too much on Peter Quillin because right now he's not really at his strongest point. You know, he stepped up, fought better fighters this year. He had a draw with one and he got knocked out by the other. All right, but people feel that Golovkin needed that fight. Danny Jacobs, what's his story? He's a regular WBA champion. And as far as I'm concerned, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason for that title is to put you right in place to fight the super champion. All right? You hold the title, you know, you fight, you know, that title is pretty much giving you the spot to fight the super champion when you're ready or when, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the WBA needs to force this fight to happen because why is Danny Jacobs going to continue fighting and holding this title and he's not even fighting the super champion? What if there's somebody else that wants that title in order to fight Golovkin? They want that title in order to get the spot to fight Gennady Golovkin. Like in the welterweight division, Keith Thurman was the regular champion or whatever, or he was elevated or whatever. But his goal was to fight Floyd Mayweather because Floyd Mayweather was the super champion. That's why you want that title, because you want to get the fight with the real champion. But Danny Jacobs is going around trying to get a fight, land a fight with everybody else but Golovkin. You know, and I heard the news today about Toriano Johnson not fighting Golovkin. And Toriano Johnson was the IBF mandatory for Golovkin. Okay. Well, he sustained some kind of injury and he's not going to be fighting Gennady Golovkin. Why isn't Danny Jacobs fighting Gennady Golovkin? Why isn't he? Now, let's not include the network wars. I understand that Golovkin is fighting on HBO. Danny Jacobs is fighting on the PBC. But as far as the rankings are concerned, why is this guy going to just keep fighting with his title and not fighting the super champion? I don't understand that. Now, I remember watching the fight with Peter Quillin and Danny Jacobs, and the broadcasters were saying that, whoa, you can argue that Danny Jacobs has a better resume than Golovkin because he fought Peter Quillin and knocked him out. And Peter Quillin is probably better than anyone that Golovkin has faced, right? Now, I expect the networks to say that because Danny Jacobs is a Showtime / PBC fighter. So I would expect that from them because they're hyping their fighter. But I wouldn't expect that from the fans. I wouldn't expect the fans to really believe that Danny Jacobs has a comparable resume to Gennady Golovkin. Really wouldn't go with that. Because the only other fighter that Danny Jacobs fought that was really good was a guy that he got knocked out by. All right. Other than that, I guess Sergio Mora might be the second best guy he fought since Pirogue. Okay, and then Peter Quillin. And it was a great win. I'm not trying to take anything away from that win. But he doesn't have a better resume than Gennady Golovkin. Okay. That's like saying you watch NBA. You watch the NBA, right? We all know that the Golden State Warriors are destroying this season. All right. They're monsters. You know, they're breaking records and stuff like that. They have the best record in the NBA, all right? But they go and have their first loss to the Bucks. The Bucks is not even the best team on the East. You know, I don't know who was the best team, but let's say the Cavs were. Let's say the Cavs with LeBron James is the best team. Just because the Bucks beat the best team in the league doesn't mean that they have a better record than the Cavaliers. I know that's a different sport, but it's the same thing, all right? It's the same thing. It doesn't mean they have a better record because they beat the best team. All right, the Cavs is still the best team on the East. Whereas the Warriors are the best team in the league, yet they got beat by the Bucks, who is not the best team on either conference. Okay? We're not going to say the Bucks is the best team now because they beat. No, that's not how it works. Okay? Your resume is built on several. It's based off all of the fighters you face, not just one fight that you beat a fighter that, you know, a lot of people consider to be one of the top fighters in the division. That's just one fight. All right, so stop comparing their resumes. Their resumes don't even match up. A lot of you guys wasn't even feeling or talking about Danny Jacobs like that until this fight. All right. Now moving on. Billy Joe Saunders, very disappointing. You know, I like Saunders. I like Saunders. I knew he didn't want to fight Golovkin way before this fight because he said it in interviews, like, you know, that he would never want to fight that guy. He said that way before the Andy Lee fight. I picked him to beat Andy Lee. You know, he won the fight. I wasn't expecting him to fight Golovkin. He's ducking Golovkin, obviously. He's scared to fight Golovkin. And I'm not giving him a pass because you are a champion, you are a title holder, yet you don't want to fight the other best guy in the division. This is a competitive sport, and you should want to fight the best. You should want to. But he's straight up saying, like, I'm not fighting the guy. No matter how much money they offer this guy, he still doesn't want to take the fight. It's corny to me, but he's not doing anything different from any other fighter. Danny Jacobs is overpricing himself, saying that he wants $3 million or whatever amount of money he said. He's overpricing himself. It's no different from Canelo, and it's no different from Danny Jacobs. These guys are asking for something in order to make Golovkin's team say, nah, we're not doing that for you. You know, because let's be real. These guys just don't want to fight Golovkin. There's no one at 160 that actually wants to fight Golovkin. None of them. None of these guys that hold the title, Canelo is enforcing the 155 Canelo weight, even though he's the 160 champ. You know, he's fighting in a division where the weight limit is 160, yet he's trying to enforce this Canelo weight. And you know, it's disappointing, you know, and I'm disappointed in Saunders. He's probably gonna go back to the UK and hide out over there like Kell Brook is doing, is fighting just a bunch of fighters over there in his backyard. That's what they do, you know. He's probably gonna go and do the same thing. You know, it's unfortunate. I mean, maybe he fights Danny Jacobs. I mean, that's a cool fight, but for what? What are you fighting Danny Jacobs for? You know, Danny Jacobs is the regular champion. You want the WB title? You want to get even closer? As far as what I'm concerned, that WBO title that Saunders got holds way more weight than that regular WBA title. So I don't even know why he would want that fight. You know, I mean, listen, it's a good name to have down on your resume, but if you're gonna fight someone dangerous like Danny Jacobs, you might as well go and fight Golovkin. You know, unless you want to be like Peter Quillin, trying to duck and try to skip around and try to be slick and fight all these other guys and end up getting draws and knocked out anyway. You know, this is why ducking You duck so hard, eventually you're going to get knocked out anyway by a guy that people weren't even expecting you to get knocked out by, because you're going so hard with the duck. You might as well have fought Golovkin. Now, let's talk Canelo Alvarez and Golovkin. And this is my problem I have with Golovkin, okay? My problem isn't the catch weight and him turning down the catch weight, because I see people saying, he's ducking. He's ducking Golovkin because he's ducking Canelo because he said he will fight anyone from 154 to 168. Well, I saw it when he said that. I'm sure he said that towards Floyd Mayweather, but maybe not, He hasn't fought anyone at 154. He hasn't come down at all right? But I'm sure he would have came down to fight Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao or someone that, was really major. Not just Canelo Alvarez. I mean, Canelo is major now, but the guy felt that he wanted to fight him at once. You can't say Golovkin is ducking a man for turning down a catch weight at the lowest possible weight in that division. Like 155 when the weight limit is 160. All right, I don't agree with that, Now, the WBC said that Golovkin was the mandatory. Whoever won this fight, Golovkin is the absolute mandatory. He's been that already. All right, he's supposed to fight Cotto. Cotto didn't fight him. He was supposed to pay him $800,000 or whatever. He never got the money for that. They stripped Cotto of the title, and Canelo Alvarez wins the fight. So now he has the title. And Canelo's saying, well, fight at my weight, 155, I'll fight you. Golovkin says no. All right. Now, being that Golovkin is the mandatory, he does not have to fight at 160 or 155 Canelo weight. He does not have to agree to fight him at that weight. What was supposed to happen is, since Golovkin didn't agree to that catch weight, since Canelo Alvarez still has to fight him, his mandatory no matter what, they were supposed to strip him of the title within a week of him winning that title. Okay? That didn't happen. They bended the rules for Canelo Alvarez because they like him, and he got what he wants. My problem with Gennady Golovkin is they bended the rules for him, and he should have taken legal action. He's too passive. Him and his team, they already made an agreement with Cotto. They made an agreement with Canelo. All right, I'm supposed to get this title regardless of this, me turning down this catch weight. No. Instead, let these guys slip away again. Say, all right, well, I'm going to fight one more fight before I fight you, possibly late 2016. I just want one more fight. And you let him go and do it. For what? You're running out of time in your career. You're in your mid-30s now, and you're still trying to unify titles. Billy Joe Saunders turned you down, okay? So you can't get the IBF title, and they're not forcing him to fight you. And now you can't get the WBC title because it switched hands over to Canelo Alvarez, and now he wants to fight other people before he fights you. Because realistically, he never wanted to fight you from the jump. He never wanted to fight you. This is why he's trying to get you to fight him at his weight. He doesn't want to be a middleweight. They don't want to fight at middleweight. Neither did Cotto. You let Cotto slide. Okay, you should have took legal action with Cotto. You should have had it in writing. If you're going to fight Canelo Alvarez, you have to pay me X amount of money, make a contract, get paid, and that's it. Now the title switched hands, and now the new champion is playing you too, and now you have to wait. You have to wait for another fight for you to even possibly get a fight. You might still not get that fight then. And we already know the WBC are going to keep bending rules in order to favor the fighters that they want to favor at that given time. So how long are you going to keep getting played, Golovkin? How long are you going to keep getting played? If you want to make history, you want to unify, you want to be undisputed, how are you going to be undisputed if you keep letting these guys get away with this bullshit WBC, nonsense that they're doing, that they're letting these fighters slide off and not fight their mandatories. They're bending the rules for the fighters that they like, okay? It's not fair. You need to take legal action. You should have taken legal action. If they didn't strip Canelo, you should have took legal actions because you should be the title holder for the WBC at this point. Okay? I don't know what he's going to do. Golovkin, you know, Canelo's going to probably go off and fight Gabe Rosado, a fighter that everyone has beaten. And now you're just sitting here. Toriano Johnson got injured. You gotta figure out a fighter to fight. You know, find a fighter to fight. Me personally, as far as the IBF, Golovkin being an IBF title holder, his mandatory was Toriano Johnson. He gets hurt, so now you have under him Dominic Wade and Hassan Ndam. That there's no demand for those fights. Okay, Dominic Wade is not ready for Golovkin. He would get knocked out in 1 and 2 rounds. And Hassan Ndam is coming off of the loss against David Lemieux, where he got knocked down 5 times. The guy that Golovkin went to knock out anyway. He lost to the guy that Golovkin went and stopped. Okay, and dominated. Not just stopped, but he dominated him for every single round. You know, David Lemieux didn't win any rounds in that fight. All right. So now you don't have an opponent. And I think it's time to fight Erislandy Lara. I think this is a perfect time to do it. Lara is the WBA champ at 154. Okay? He's been calling you out. It's a fight that the fans want to see. Okay, a lot of the fans want to see this fight. There's a lot of Lara supporters like myself that want to see the fight. They think Lara is the best person on, better than anyone that Golovkin has faced, even though he's a smaller guy. Lara is willing to come up in weight. Okay, Lara did fight Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people feel that Lara beat Canelo Alvarez. There's more than enough reasons on why you should pick Erislandy Lara as your next opponent, because he fought Canelo. People think Lara won the fight. If you go to fight Lara, look impressive, stop him, or dominate him, a lot of people are going to give you more credit than Canelo Alvarez because you went in there with a guy that, you know, arguably beat Canelo, and you dominated him. He should pick Erislandy Lara. Lara's been talking. His camp been talking. They've been calling you out for 2 years now. All right? He's the only guy that seemed to be calling it. Not one guy at 160 is calling out Gennady Golovkin. Not one. And you got a guy at 154 that's calling him out. You know, the only other guy that's calling him out was Andre Ward at 168. Guys at 168, bigger guys. No one at 160 is calling out Golovkin. Golovkin should go up. Golovkin should go up. I mean, Golovkin should fight Lara. Why not fight him? You know? So anyway, I'm trying to think there's anything else I need to talk about. You know, as far as the champions, they're all ducking. Obviously, they're all ducking Golovkin. I'm trying to think of if there's anyone else out there that I really fight Chris Eubank. What's up with Chris Eubank? You know, I'm not sure. I believe he's ranked with the WBA. I think he's ranked with the WBA. If Golovkin can't fight, doesn't choose to fight Lara, why not fight Eubank? Eubank actually did call out Golovkin. So if he's willing to fight Golovkin now, maybe make that fight happen, you know? I personally think Eubank would get knocked out, but, you know, I guess there's people that would want to see that fight. You know, I mean, Eubank do have power. You know, he has some power, but he hasn't really fought anyone but Saunders. He hasn't fought anyone but Saunders, all right? And he lost that fight. But anyway, I mean, the division is garbage right now because, you know, there are some good fights. There were some good fights in 2015. But, you know, I mean, you had Lemieux and Golovkin. You had Quinlan and Jacobs and Quinlan and Lee and Saunders. So those were good fights. But, you know, let's try to get these unification matches going. And it seems like everyone is doing that instead of ducking each other instead of actually trying to unify and making all these excuses. You know, they're all doing the same thing, man. Saunders, Jacobs, Canelo, they're all doing the same thing. They all Canelo's using weight. He, and then the last report was that Canelo said he'll fight him if he gets 90% of the purse. Like 90%, really? I would have, if I was Golovkin, I would have did it. Call his bluff. Fine. I'll get paid. All right, fine. If you really want the title back that bad, if he doesn't have to fight the catch weight or do the catch weight, call this guy's bluff. Let him get 90%. You know why? Because the money's going to come anyway. If you go in there and beat Canelo and stop him, the money's going to come long term anyway, because now you beat Canelo Alvarez and then you're going to become the pay-per-view star. So, I don't know. I don't know what's up with Golovkin. I just feel like it's not him. I know it's probably his team, his camp, whoever's managing him or whatever. But there's certain things that I think he should have done. I think he should have taken legal action. I think he's just a little too passive. Obviously, he wants to fight these guys, but he's being a little bit too passive. All right. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I would hope Golovkin fought a Danny Jacobs, a Lara, or a Eubank, maybe, in that order. If not, whatever's whatever. I don't know what Saunders is going to do. Like I said, he's probably going to go back and hide out and just get another rematch with Eubank at some point. Who else is champion? Canelo's going to just go and fight Canelo. And for the people that defends Canelo, like a lot of people, I see some fans are saying that they should build the fight. Dude, Canelo was coming off of wins. He came off of one of the most devastating knockout wins against James Kirkland last year. Okay? You beat and knock out that guy. You go and beat Miguel Cotto. All right? You have all the momentum in the world right now. They should have already been promoting this fight between Canelo and Gennady Golovkin. All right? They should have been already promoting this fight from now. People really believe that Canelo Alvarez could win this fight because Canelo is fighting the better guys. He beat Miguel Cotto. He knocked out James Kirkland. In 2015, Canelo got all the momentum in the world right now. And people are saying, oh, just build one more fight. Him beating Gabe Rosado or Golovkin beating Toriano Johnson is not going to build a fight between the two. That doesn't make any sense. No one wants to see Gabe Rosado. I mean, I like Gabe, so I'm not trying to diss him or nothing, but nobody's checking for that fight. No one's asking, or there's no demand for that fight. But it is what it is. In fact, I think it might lose momentum because what if Gabe is actually giving Canelo a good fight? I don't know what fight. I don't know if they're gonna fight at Canelo weight or he's gonna try to fight Gabe at 160. But, whoever it is, even if it's not Gabe Rosado, it's probably going to be an easier touch for Canelo because that's how they do, Look at the patterns. All right, I don't know. What if it is Gabe and Gabe actually gives Canelo a pretty good fight where Canelo wins, but he gave him a tough fight and it's debatable, all right? If it's debatable, how is that going to build momentum towards a Gennady Golovkin fight when Golovkin already knocked out Gabe Rosado? You see what I'm saying? So you really can't use that as an excuse. I think guys are just ducking. Canelo he's ducking because he's using the catch weight. Saunders is just scared. He's just afraid. And Jacobs wants to overprice himself like he isn't the WBA regular champion. He doesn't really hold a major title. All right? So anyway, that's my thoughts on the middleweight division. I think it's kind of garbage right now, but we still could get some good fights this year. But I just think all these guys should stop ducking because the more they duck, the more, you're going to lose anyway. You're going to lose at some point. You lose at some point by a guy that's not even as good as the top guy in the division. You might as well have fought that man, That's just my thoughts, all right? And I'll check you guys on the next video.